Statistics show that women are 5 to 8 times more likely than men to be victims of domestic violence, and 1 in 3 black women are so victimized. Joining us today is Sil Lai Abrams, a domestic violence activist and relationship expert who had to overcome some of her own personal drama. Good to see you again, and thanks for being with us this afternoon. You wrote the book, No More Drama, which I've read and had. Wonderful book.
Thank you.
A book that was written out of your own personal experiences. How did you become a domestic violence expert?
Well, if anything, being an expert, typically it helps if you have experience with the subject matter. And unfortunately, I'm a survivor of domestic violence myself. From the age of 22 to 27, I was in a violent relationship with my daughter's father. And like a lot of women, I had bought into this idea that any man was better than no man, and I didn't want to break up our home. And so I stayed, even though I knew that I had to leave.
And how bad did it get? What made you finally decide, I can't do this anymore?
The majority of the violence was emotional, verbal, but there was physical abuse as well. And the physical abuse happened probably every 3 to 6 months for the first 3 years, I would say 4 years of the relationship. And what made me finally decide to leave was when he actually picked up my son and threw him across the room. We were in an argument, threw him across the room, and he landed on the bed. I mean, fortunately, my son was not physically harmed, but I had always told myself that I would, as long as he didn't touch the kids, that was kind of the bottom line for me. And when that happened, that was it. I cut the ties.
Why do you think that you were even willing at that point to allow yourself to continue to be abused? I understand your desire to protect your children, but why was the line, you drew the line at your kids, but you didn't feel that way about yourself?
I really believed, like a lot of abused women, that he would change. I really thought that if I loved him enough, and this is very odd projection here, focus on him, don't look at myself and my own issues with self-esteem, my own issues with abandonment and whatever else that we tend to carry from our family of origin. Just focus on the relationship. If you can make this work, then you'll be okay. And buying into the myths and the fairy tales about how true love conquers all, and that if you love him enough, that the relationship will work out, and obviously we know that isn't necessarily the case.
And you weren't and are not the only one that thinks that way. I think there are a whole lot of women that believe the same thing, and perhaps the relationships don't go as far as physical violence. As you said, it was more emotional. They really don't have enough self-esteem and faith in themselves to strike out on their own or even believe they deserve to have a certain kind of life.
And I believe that also there is this kind of tacit acceptance of interpersonal violence in the black community. When I write articles for Ebony.com or The Griot on domestic violence, I'm always shocked. It doesn't matter how many years I've been doing this, I'm always shocked when I see the readers' comments. More than often, the woman is blamed for somehow causing the man to abuse her, that if we weren't so culturally so loud, so aggressive, so domineering, that we wouldn't be treated the way that we do. But black women do have the highest rates of domestic violence in the country, and especially black teenage girls as well have the highest rates of all high school students.
And 2 questions here. Why do you think this idea persists, even though we have talked more about the issue of domestic violence over the years, been more open about it, because there was a time when people wouldn't even tell? Why do you think the idea still persists in communities of colors, not just black people, that we deserve it, that somehow you have to be forgiving of the man when he does that, give him another chance, it's not that bad? Why do you think that hangs on?
There is an unhealthy amount of responsibility that's placed on women, period, in our culture for the health, the overall health and wellness of a relationship. Also, women are conditioned and socialized to define a lot of their self-worth based upon our relationships with other people, be it our girlfriends, our family, our children, and our intimate partners. So when you're operating from that space of this
not really knowing who you are without something else to define you.
Right, when you're operating from that space of not knowing who you are, defining yourself through other people, it's a foundation for these types of dysfunctional relationships. And culturally, I believe that we are still suffering from the legacy of slavery. A lot of the abuse that was wrought upon us by slave masters in this country, and also from the Caribbean, other areas, it still perpetuates to this day.
And plays out in different ways. And you mentioned also young girls. It's a problem in their dating, teenage relationships. I mean, we saw the incident, obviously highly publicized, Rihanna and Chris Brown, and some of the comments about that were, even among young girls, were what you said. Well, she must have done something. It's not that bad. He's a young man. It's not. I'm flabbergasted and also scared at the same time. Why do you think young women, are they learning this at home? What do you think is happening there?
Well, I think it's the responsibility of both the adults, the young people, and also the role models that we have in our homes and in our communities of what relationships look like. Unfortunately, there aren't a ton of positive examples of relationships, period. What I see is you can see a lot of times codependency or false dependency that's masking as love, and just really not having an idea of what a healthy relationship looks like. You know, before you have a healthy relationship with another person, you have to have a healthy relationship with yourself. And unfortunately, so many of us suffer from low self-esteem. So many young men are taught to define themselves through their sexual conquest. So many young women are taught that their true power lies not what is between their ears, but what is between their legs. That is how you affect change in your life. That's how you advance economically. I think that is a big reason why young people continue to repeat the patterns of the adults in their lives. But one of the ways that we can make a difference is through education in the public school system and also through other community-based organizations.
So we want to continue this discussion, so you're going to stay here. When we come back, we are going to talk to Sil Lai about how the media may be creating a culture of violent relationships. Stay with us. In the age of hip-hop and reality TV, are the images of people of color creating a culture of relationship violence? Here's what some of you had to say about that.
Reality TV shows are very degrading towards the youth, especially black women. A lot of times when you watch the shows, you see women fighting, cursing, and I know a lot of teenagers, like me, myself, like I tune in and watch it, and my little sisters, they also watch it, and it's very degrading to see that. It makes it think like it's acceptable to do some of those things, which is not cool.
Well, you know what, unfortunately, I don't think that reality TV is representative of who we really are. It's about bringing a message across that does not accurately depict who we are, who we strive to be, and much of what we've accomplished in our community.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good image for young girls.
I don't think hip-hop or like music videos, anything like that is promoting violence. It's just the way that a person perceives it.
Yes, I do watch reality TV shows.
I think reality shows have a negative impact on the African American community.
You know, I think because a lot of the issues in those shows always revolve around extramarital affairs. They do revolve around domestic violence and glamorizing materialistic values.
I periodically watch reality TV, but I don't watch reality TV a lot. I prefer scripted shows like sitcoms and dramas and news and things like that.
There's a great deal of sensationalism there, and no, I don't think it's accurate. I know that there is a lot of imagery that we see, particularly with regard to the violence, and much of the shows that I've watched on reality TV brings an image of us and the participants of those shows that are unrealistic.
I don't think it's promoting. I don't think hip-hop is, reality shows is promoting violence, but I think it's not trying to stop it either.
And no matter what people think about these shows or other images, they keep on watching them. This afternoon, we've been talking to author and relationship expert Sil Lai Abrams. I got to ask you that question. How much of an impact, especially on young people, do you think seeing the way women are talked about in videos, some of the fighting among women of color on these reality TV shows, even fighting with the men on these reality TV shows, how are people taking in those images, and how does it impact the way they behave in their real lives, do you think?
The impact of the media, I mean, it's been shown for quite some time through research that the media does have a real effect on our behavior. And what I've seen it firsthand in the neighborhood in which I live, on the college campuses where I speak, in the nonprofit organizations as well that I do workshops and trainings on empowerment. The media is having a real effect. Specifically, reality television is changing the way that we're relating to each other. And one of the things that is really popular on the shows is bullying, and you see that a lot, how women, particularly women of color, are pitted against one another, typically in competition for the attention of a man. And so all this does is continue to divide our community, and absolutely and unequivocally our young people are mirroring that in their behaviors in schools.
You know, people would argue that it's show business, that these people are working. I mean, plenty of people will tell you that reality TV isn't really reality TV. It's not necessarily scripted, but it's pushed to go a certain way. How do you convince people that that is not a pattern that they should be adopting for their own lives, when, you know, that looks like it's glamorous and it's the way people are making money, making their living?
There's always been, in any society, there's going to be a few people who are going to make money off of the pain and suffering of others. And unfortunately, as you know, some of the producers, executive producers of these shows are women of color.
How do you convince people that this is not necessarily the lifestyle they should be wanting if, as you point out, a lot of these people that are victims of domestic violence are already suffering from self-esteem issues? How do you tell some people you need to get help, or not use this as your role model for how you want your life to be?
Unfortunately, a lot of people have bought into this idea that reality television is harmless, that it doesn't really have an effect. It's not my problem. I mean, the apathy that I see particularly among women, educated, professional women who watch these shows and who don't think that there's anything wrong with it. I mean, it's extremely troubling. But if we really understood how the media, how these negative images are shaping our identity, how it's shaping the ideas that young people have around themselves and relationships, heck, even affecting our own relationships with our partners. And that's one of the things that I'm committed to doing, is to sharing the truth about what is happening in reality television. And in terms of showing that this is not the role model that you need to follow, I mean, come on. How many video vixens, how many former rap stars, how many strippers do we need to see that go up on TV and become another reality star? I mean, I know that does not represent every woman, but let's be real. Being a basketball wife or a stripper turned rapper is not going to be a ticket to empowerment, to financial freedom. But that's what these shows are teaching you. It's escapism in saying that you can take a shortcut to achieve some type of notoriety, some type of relevance in the world, and that's just not the case.
You know, no, nothing replaces hard work and having a talent or a skill. I want to ask you about an organization that you have been involved with for years, Safe Horizon. It is an organization that provides services for people that have been victimized. Tell me about it.
Safe Horizon was very instrumental in helping me to get out of the violent relationship that I was in. I was actually referred to the organization through the hospital. When I was treated at the ER, they sent a follow-up letter to my house, and I went in and sought counseling. And what was really wonderful about Safe Horizon is that they educated me and taught me the truth about the relationship that I was in, which I believe that any true transformation and healing begins with the acceptance of what is, acceptance of the truth. And so by getting that information and then working one-on-one with the caseworker, I was able to develop a safety plan that helped me to ultimately get out of that relationship.
And that's what Safe Horizon was able to do for you. What would you suggest to a woman that is feeling like, well, maybe I've not been physically hit, but I am in a relationship that I know I need to get out of for my sanity and safety, what do they first need to do? Go to a friend? Where would you suggest that they go for help initially to get the ball rolling?
I would recommend going online and looking up the definition of intimate partner violence. Get the information and start there. A lot of times we will go to our family members, we will go to friends, but not everyone's got the same definition. Not everyone believes that emotional manipulation or gaslighting or verbal abuse is abnormal. So that's one thing to bear in mind, is check the source. And so that's why I believe that going to a resource such as the National Domestic Violence Hotline, ndvh.org, or to safehorizon.org is the first step in getting help.
So educating yourself is the first step in arming yourselves in a lot of ways.
Education, and then following up with treatment. Because if you don't get treatment, you run the risk of repeating the same behaviors over and over again.
Okay, Sil Lai Abrams, thank you so much for being with us.